So let me invite Sarah Hughes, the beta reader of Patience's book, to share her experience. Sarah, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for agreeing to share your story of how you what you've taken from reading Patience's book. So let's start with that review part of this RAVE framework, your starting point. So what was going on in your life or career when you first picked up this book?
Thank you, Lynn. And thank you very much, Patience, for inviting me to be a beta reader. It was a privilege to read your wonderful book. Um, my life is very busy. I am a mum of two lovely young boys who have quite diverse and sometimes challenging needs. And my career is very full on. I co-run a hair care company, and when I'm not working for Hair Gain, I'm helping my husband with our family-run marketing agency, which I founded 8 years ago. Um, in running these businesses, I've done quite a lot of work over the years on um, my own voice and not apologizing for taking up space in the room, which I was very guilty of doing in my corporate career. But the last year has been fairly overwhelming. So it felt quite timely when Patience invited me to be a beta reader, both from a professional and from a personal perspective. And I've never really openly labeled myself as an introvert to those around me or indeed to myself. And I think Patience probably recognized that in me a few years ago, but I wasn't ready to own that. But when the opportunity to read the book came up, I knew that it was time to own who I am, and what I am. So I accepted, and I'm very, very glad that I did.
And so what specifically drew you to the book?
Yeah, I think it was because I was feeling very overwhelmed and not very aligned at all. So I think, the title itself and the fact that it was addressing my discomfort. So alignment was lacking. Introvert is a word that I had always avoided labeling myself. And I think it was definitely time for me to confront that discomfort. So yeah, I think it was time. I knew that this book would help me and give me the permission to accept or fully accept who I am. So
So fully accept who you are. So what makes this book different from the start from other books on leadership and introversion, do you think?
I think it's because as soon as I opened the book and read the two forewords and the author introduction, it spoke to me straight away. I could see myself on those pages. You know, a lot of the descriptions, I was like, yes, that's me. Yes, that's a great word for it. That describes situations that I've lived. And it was upon reading those that I knew that this book was really going to help me. It hooked me in straight away, but I think there was one line in particular in the foreword by Kwame Christian, and he wrote the core. So everything in his career had been based on one core idea, and that was the most important negotiation that you're going to have is with yourself, and that if you want to own your voice in this world, then you have to find peace of who you are inside. And I had already been on that journey. I've been on that journey for a number of years, but I think what it made me realize is that there's still a lot of work to do. And there was so much truth in what I read that I just found it just spoke to me in a way no other leadership book had, because a lot of Patience's lived experiences are my own. I saw so much of myself in the opening parts of that book, and that for me is what made it very powerful, very validating, and very liberating.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. That's such a powerful reflection of how that book has talked to you personally and why that's different. So was there a moment, a chapter, a concept in the book that sort of really stopped you in your tracks?
Yeah, I mean, there were many throughout the book that stopped me in my tracks. From the foreword alone,
Mm,
as I've talked about, that stopped me in my tracks
mm.
because I did see myself there, in a way that no other book has done. Um, but there were Patients had a great way of giving language to the pressures that I felt throughout my career that I've never really fully labeled. So things like the introvert tax, that invisible cost that I've always had to pay just through being me, and the shadow lion. Mine has always been the big bad shadow mouse, and that's something that I adopted when I became a mum and was reading The Gruffalo's Child probably a gazillion times a day to my children. But that kind of encompassed my shadow. So yeah, the ADHD and RSD chapter really resonated with me. It's something that I'm navigating as a parent and recognize a lot of in myself. And I think the honesty and the vulnerability, but also the kind of practicalities and the solutions of what Patience was writing about, uh, were really revelationary for me because they're things that I can take and apply not only to myself, but to the way I support my son as well. And I think the honesty was profound, really. And I had only really discovered about RSD the year before.
Mm,
And anyone that I talk to, just they have no clue what it is.
mm,
They're like, what's that? And when I describe it, they're like, oh, that's a bit odd. Um, so yeah, it was the first time someone I know had written about it with such clarity, um, and such kind of understanding of the impact that it can have on life. So yeah, there was multiple chapters, but they're examples of the ones that really stood out for me.
and thank you. Can you just, for those that haven't read the book and aren't familiar with RSD, can you just elaborate a little bit more on what RSD stands for, and what that
It- It's
actually is?
it's rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and it's when someone feels extreme emotional pain when they feel like they're being rejected.
Mm, thank you for that clarification. Um, so what did the book help you see about yourself that you hadn't fully recognized or accepted before?
Yeah, I think the book finally helped me to accept that I'm wired differently,
Mm,
um, and to move from how do I fit in to how do I build on what I am. And I think Patience was talking earlier about permission and acceptance, and I think that was very much what it allowed me to do. I'd never accepted the fact that I was an introvert previously. Since childhood, I've always been labeled as being quiet. I hated it. I saw it as a weakness, something that made me feel different. It felt ashamed, not normal. But I think, and I guess it's kind of, over the years, I have realized that it's my quietness is my strength.
mm,
And I think it's that final acceptance of that. A lot of the successes in my life have come from not being the loud voice. It's come from listening, from observation, from being thoughtful and considered and more strategic and collaborative. Those are really core strengths of mine, and I need to celebrate them. And I think I never really truly have in the way that I should. So I think it's really helped me to kind of not hide it away and not mask who I am to fit in,
mm,
to take up that space and to own it, and to not be scared of letting people see that.
mm. And thank you, Sarah. So that quietness is your strength. I loved that.
Yeah.
And that you it's not masking that you're actually owning the space you're in. So, was there a part of the book that was almost the trigger that gave you the permission to start accepting that?
I don't think there was any one point throughout the book
Okay.
that was the trigger. I think all of it spoke to me, and I
Mm,
think what it's given me, and I said to patients, it's, that for me, I said to patients earlier this week, it's the book for me is not a one-time read. It's going to be my companion for probably a very long time as I work through all of the parts. Um, so I think th there were lots of things that I took from it, not
mm,
any kind of specific part. But in terms of kind of the things that I've taken away straight away and are already impacting in terms of my career and my home life
mm,
as well, are things like Patience talks about the four overs and boundaries in the intention section of the book. And these are things that I've not mastered particularly well in the past. But I knew when I was reading those chapters that these were things that I could implement very quickly. And I have, over the last few weeks, I've been quite firm in establishing boundaries in the first place, but then also preserving and protecting those boundaries. And that's
mm,
kind of been quite revelationary,
mm.
because I think, there's always fear when establishing boundaries, isn't
Yeah.
there? And I think for me, the fear was, oh, I'm going to upset someone or someone's not going to
Mm,
like this. And it always has to be at the consequence of my own, everything really, work-life balance.
yeah.
But actually, in establishing those boundaries, people respect them. And I think that fear was unnecessary for so much of my career. It's something that I should have done a long time ago.
That's such a fabulous reframe
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people actually respect those boundaries
Yeah.
from your fear of that
Yeah.
what that could do in establishing them, that
Yeah.
they respect them. Thank you. So, what would you say to someone who's hesitant about whether this book is for them? What would you say?
Um, I mean, I guess it depends on why they're hesitant
Mm,
in the first place. I mean, I think, for me, my career means that I talk to a lot of women in senior positions. I have built many strong relationships. So I think from my perspective, I would always recommend this book if I feel that that woman is a similar scenario to where I am. In terms of hesitancy, I mean, like I say, it depends on what it is. But if their hesitation is similar to what mine is, and
mm,
I've never labeled myself that, but
mm,
everything I've read throughout the book relates so much to me. So I think, if you've ever been in a networking situation or a boardroom where you felt underestimated and people have overspoken and you've not been listened to, then I think, this is really the book for you because it will allow you to take ownership of what you are and really become that kind of that person that you want to be in leadership roles, business roles, founder roles, and so on.
that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, you've already talked about the fact that you've been establishing boundaries and working through some of the things that you felt were quick wins. But what else might you want to do differently going forward?
Yeah, well, another one of the things that one of the takeaways that I am already implementing is the pitching versus positioning was very revelationary for me because my career is, I've been in sales and marketing my
Mm,
whole career. Things like networking, pitching, presenting in front of many, many people are part of what I do, but have never really been parts of the job that I'm 100% comfortable with. And I always have felt like I've been performing.
mm,
But there are a lot of instances in the last few years, especially when I've been running businesses, where I've leaned naturally into that positioning aspect as opposed to pitching. without truly having that word, I realized on
Mm,
reading the book that that's what I've been doing, and that's naturally how I prefer to be in those kinds of situations. So I think that was, yeah, that really resonated, and it's kind of allowed me to change the way I see these events as well. So the Dragon's Den example was very powerful for me because what I do at Hairgain, I'm very much involved in the creation of products. And I have created products, and I've got a big event on Thursday, for example, at the CEW where I have to. So I'm demonstrating this little peptide puff dry shampoo. This was my idea. Um, I was the one that brought it to market. Yeah, I felt absolutely petrified for the last couple of months at the thought of being in front of all of these senior leaders within the beauty industry
mm,
and pitching my product. It was terrifying me because I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have to see all of these people. I'm going to have to get through all of the USPs of the product. But reading that chapter really made me sit back and think, no, I don't. I just need to tell them my story. And I think
mm,
that's going to resonate so much better. And also, I don't have to have a million conversations with a million different people. I just need to have the right conversations with the right people and tell them why I love this product and why I created this product, rather than the quick sales pitch,
mm.
which you're almost it's almost like that's that sales mentality. You need to do the pitch. And actually, I don't. I just need to tell the story. And that's kind of one of the biggest immediate things that I've learned from Patience's book. And actually, I'm really looking forward to the event on Thursday, and that's a really new feeling.
That's that is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing your learning, your insights, Sarah.
Yeah.
That's really, really powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patience. Thank you, Sarah. Patience, I'm going to hand back to you now.